Greetings to one and all, it's your old buddy Jay here coming at you with another episode of Countermeasures Game Changer. Now, you know I like to talk about games and I like to talk about a bit of design and I like to talk about designing games, so let's get into it. So Call of Duty Vanguard is a 2021 first-person shooter which was developed by Sledgehammer Games and published by Activision. It was released in 2021 on November the 5th on Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 4, 5, Xbox One and Series X and S. Now, according to my notes here, it is the 18th installment of the overall Call of Duty series. And it basically follows a very similar formula to all of the rest of them. So if you like Call of Duty, then you're going to like this one. Personally, I always look forward to playing Call of Duty. The first one I really got into was Modern Warfare, the first iteration of that all those years ago, like 2011 or something, maybe even before then. And I got really into it, and I liked the campaign, and I wasn't really into the multiplayer, but that was something that came along later. And I got really into the franchise with all the different iterations like Black Ops and Modern Warfare 2. Those games were just doing some really innovative things that first-person shooters hadn't done before. They were, the stories were interesting. The gameplay wasn't just running around shooting. There was other stuff going on. The story was kind of engaging you and forcing you to be interactive in some very interesting ways. So there were like stealth sections, and there were, really big firefight sections and sections where you're taking over sort of vehicles in the air that would then kind of bomb the ground and take out kind of ground troops. So there was a lot of different things going on that were making those, every time the games come out, they'd have something new that was really engaging, and I really liked that. And I feel that that was a good entry point for the franchise because they were experimenting with what people like and what they love. Now, over the last decade, what they have done is they've taken all of those things that people like and love, and they keep owning them down, and to the point now where it's every one of these that comes out is an absolute focused masterclass of what people want. It's there's always the the stealth mission, there's always the kind of big fight at the end, there's always someone trying to do, like a Bond film, someone trying to do something bad that you're trying to prevent from happening, etc. And I feel that while that is interesting on the first sort of 15 versions of the game, when it gets down to this, like the 18th version, they're still sticking to the same formula. It's starting to get a little bit stale because they're not really trying to do anything innovative. Now they're just doing rinse and repeat. It's the kind of Disney Star Wars approach, which is, this works, why would we change it? So I just feel that in terms of innovation, this particular entry into the franchise isn't very good. I feel like they don't really do anything that different to the previous iterations. They try and do a few little things, like where you can command people on the battlefield to kind of attack various areas, but it's done so kind of hand-wavingly and so quickly that it doesn't really have such a big impact on the gameplay. So it just feels like, it's like when the DualShock, the 6-axis first came out, and you could move the controller around to pretend you were rowing a boat. I mean, it was fun the first time, but not to the 50th time. So they don't really have many of those elements in these games in case they annoy people, because they stray too far away from what people want, which is just like, switch my brain off and shoot people. So that's what this game does very well. I mean, obviously, looking at gameplay here where it all looks really beautiful. The voice acting is really good. The way the characters are written is very good. I wouldn't say the story is very good, but overall, I think every year I do look forward to playing the campaign. And I also look forward to playing the multiplayer, but that varies from year to year depending on what particular style of Call of Duty it is you're dealing with, because while they do have the very set way that they approach these games now, they do have their whole variety of different locations and different times. So, sometimes it's like a futuristic war. So you've got flying jetpacks and jump boots and things like that. Then you've got your kind of modern warfare approach, which is much more kind of grounded. This is kind of modern day technology, which I actually think is the strongest part of their franchise. And then every now and again, like this iteration for Vanguard, this 2021 insertion, they kind of go back to the First and Second World War, and I just feel like this it's just been done so many times, and it's been rinsed and repeated on so many different different franchises, like Medal of Honor do it, and Battlefield, and Battlefield came out with Battlefield 1, which was amazing. It's actually, I would say, probably one of the best First World War shooters I've ever played in my life. So when Call of Duty then did like World War II, and that wasn't really very good. It was way too arcadey and not kind of tactical enough, and it just felt like they were just cashing in on that for a moment. They should just stick with the Modern Warfare stuff, because that works much better. So in this campaign, just going back to what the plot is for this, I'm just going to read off my notes here. So Vanguard takes place in 1945, near the end of World War II, and the whole game itself is a series of flashbacks. So you have a team which are called, the team is formed of special operative executives, and you're called Task Force Vanguard. There you go. So that's why that's called Vanguard. I've only just worked that out. Right. So you have a whole load of different members of your team. There's like 5 or 6 members, and there's like the Russian sniper and the British team leader, and the American jock, and all that kind of the fighter pilot, and all that kind of all those tropes are sort of thrown in here. So nothing particularly original. So what you'd expect. And your mission is basically to find out what this thing called the Phoenix is. It's basically it's ultimately the rise of the Fourth Reich. Spoilers, you never really find out what it is. You just stop. You just play out the last few missions of the Second World War. That's basically what you're doing, and you're put in these different environments where it's like flashbacks to each of the characters. So jumping around a little bit here, but you start off where you find out there's this thing called the Phoenix, so you get captured, and then it's basically the series of interrogation scenarios where there's a flashback to each of the characters. And so the footage you're seeing here is of the Russian Polina Petrova, who is probably the most interesting character out of all of the kind of task members that I don't really care about, but she's probably the most interesting, and her story is all about the death of her family and how she deals with that by becoming this kind of kick-ass sniper. And again, it's interesting, it's fine, but it's not, a lot of these stories have been done time and time again, and actually I would argue that they've been done better time and time again. So it's nothing new. So the stories it's not really that engaging. So I've got to mark it down for that for sure, because the writing isn't very good. And some of the interviews that I've seen with the writers of this game, which I am going to shout them out, because basically the writers are Stephen Rhodes, Sam Maggs, and Tochi Enyabuchi, which I've definitely said wrong, because I love to say things wrong. And those guys were saying that what they tried to do with this iteration was introduce a whole load of characters that people could get behind. So you've got like Master Chief in Halo, and and these kind of characters that really kind of define what the franchise are. And they were saying that there's never been a kind of a real character within or a series of characters within Call of Duty that people have been able to connect to. I would say, firstly, I call bullshit on that, because there has, Price, I think the guy's name was, from Modern Warfare, is an absolute Call of Duty legend. Whenever he pops up, it's always a big deal when they use him. And so I would say he probably is their Master Chief. And there's a whole load of other characters like Soap and all these other kind of Modern Warfare characters that are really embedded in the franchise. And whenever they come up, even in a guest spot on any of these games, it's a big deal. So I would say that when they said that in their press conferences, it was a load of rubbish. Secondly, I would say they haven't achieved what they set out to do here, because the characters are quite boring. By the end of it, I knew who the Russian girl was, Polina, but I didn't really care about the others. The only reason I can really remember the leader is because his name's Arthur Kingsley, which is about as on nose of King Arthur as you could possibly get. So it wasn't really the kind of package that I wanted in terms of the story. I mean, it's incredibly short. I think I powered through the whole thing in about 4 hours. So maybe 5 hours, because there are an egregious amount of cutscenes in this film. Well, there you go, in this film. Well, it is a game, but actually they got various. There was a director, Dave Svensson, who they got in to work with the team and basically sort of turn this into more of a movie. And they're always trying to do that, and I think the problem is it's just not a movie, it's a game. So stop trying to make everything so, put weight behind all of these characters when they're just not that interesting. The problem they had is that the initial idea just wasn't a very good concept, so how they dress it up is always going to be weak, and unfortunately this game absolutely suffers from that. I did go through the whole campaign, like I said, like in sort of 4 to 5 hours, but I had it on like the hardest difficulty, and I just walked through it. Basically, I didn't really find much of it a challenge, even though I'm sure in a minute we'll see some footage of me dying again and again. It wasn't the case, I assure you. But I do find that back in the day, I'm going to say, when you had it on a hard mode, it was really, really difficult. Now I feel like the hard mode is almost just like the kind of standard mode of what it used to be, and it's not, I'm not particularly getting better at games, I don't think. I think that it's just getting easier for you to go through these kind of almost scripted moments. I'm ragging on it a little bit, but let's just talk about some of the positives. I mean, it looks beautiful. It's always designed really, really well. So, all of the detail on all of the outfits and costumes and the uniforms and the vehicles, all that stuff is amazing. So like all of the rendition, the rendering on everything and the lighting, it always looks really, really impactful. So you've got to put your hand up and say, how good all of that is. The gunplay is easily the best gunplay in pretty much any game I've played. I mean, Halo was pretty good the other, when I was playing that over the Christmas period. I must admit I did enjoy that, but you're shooting laser guns, so whatever. But with this, every weapon you fire, it feels different. The kickback is different. The aim down sights is amazing. We're not talking about Crossfire X from the other week. This is, they've got it down to an absolute fine art, and that's something that they don't need to change, because I do feel that any kind of faltering and messing around with that is just asking for trouble. So I do also have to talk about the other aspect of Call of Duty, which is whether or not the value of this game is worth it. I still think, even though the campaign isn't very good, you are getting a multiplayer, massive multiplayer section of this game, which is always really fun. And you're also getting like a whole zombies side to this, which, again, I don't really get into that side of it, but I know a lot of people that are really into it. And also there's the whole Warzone side of things as well, which, people have really taken to. And again, I haven't really got into that myself, but I like my battle royales to be a little bit more fun, like Fortnite and fancy costumes and whatever. I haven't really got into Warzone as much, but I know that has given a huge injection of adrenaline into this brand, into the branding and franchise of this thing. So so hats off. They did a good job there in terms of doing something innovative, but they haven't really taken that approach when they actually come to the campaign. So I'm a bit disappointed about that. So then it moves on to multiplayer. So you can see there's some footage here of me probably dying again. Basically, the multiplayer doesn't really change from game to game. All I will say is that this multiplayer is pretty boring. They boasted that they had like 18 to 20 maps on launch and all that kind of stuff, and I think that's fine, and in this day and age they should do. They have all the other stuff like team deathmatch and sabotage and all those kind of sort of game modes, which are always fun. Again, the weapon play is always good. The maps themselves are always quite interesting. In this one, I think there's a few kind of cubby holes you could hide in, and you can walk around the vents and things like that. So that was quite fun. But I just feel that these sort of World War II weapons are just boring. I'm bored of playing with World War II weapons. I like the kind of more modern stuff with the laser sights and but not too modern, so that everyone's flying around off the walls, because again that becomes a little bit crazy as well. I like my kind of warfare to be modern but not too modern. I think that's the quote for the cover from me. I just found it a bit boring. So actually I would usually kind of go through the multiplayer and kind of level up to level 50, and then that's me done. And I feel like I've got my money's worth there. But I just don't even think I'm going to bother with this one. And another reason why I am actually reviewing this quite late is because when this first came out, it was quite broken. A lot of the gameplay was a little bit of a mess, and various character models weren't working properly, etc. So I thought, rather than go through my usual process of running through it in November and then talking about it, I just wanted to hold back, because I kind of wanted to enjoy this one, and I'm really sad that I didn't. because I think it probably is that me burning myself probably. I feel like it could have been done much better. And all those other things aside, like I said, it looks good, the gunplay looks good, blah blah blah. I'm almost feeling like that's a given at the moment. They need to do something a little bit more interesting next time. Now, I know that Activision have just been bought, and they're actually talking about not producing another Call of Duty next November, that they're going to skip a year. I think that's great. I mean, take the year off and really reassess what's going on. Have all the, there's always multiple teams working on these, because they can't do them in 12 months, bash them out in 12 months, get them out, bash them out in 12 months, so they've got overlapping teams doing all of the work on these. So that's why there's different iterations all the time, trying to keep it lively. But what it's doing is it's just absolutely diluting the what's good about first-person shooters, just seeing this again and again and again, and seeing where they're failing again. They're not fixing issues that should be fixed, and they're not kind of being innovative when they could be, and just try something different. Don't just keep going for the same old formula. So what I'm hoping is they take a break next year, and when they come back in 2024, it will be like the best one ever. Or if it isn't the best one ever and it's just another run-of-the-mill shooter, which it could well be, it will just go to show that the 19th iteration of Call of Duty is the death knell for this franchise. Even though when I say death knell, what I really mean is it will continue to be the best-selling game every year, like it always is, because people love the multiplayer. People just love shooting each other, and it's when you're a kid and you're playing War in the Woods, you've got sticks. I'm going back. I've been around for a while, but now it's this, and it's you can rank up, and you can have your different characters looking different, and you can have all your different weapons and loadouts and stuff like that. But ultimately, while the core of the gameplay is good, the innovation is lacking, in my opinion. So on this kind of wrap up of this review, which I feel that I've spent an adequate amount of time with this game now, I am going to give this a 6 out of 10. I don't think you need to play this one. I just feel that it's I think it's run its course for sure, and I'm really interested to see what they do with the next iteration coming out in a couple of years. So hopefully that will be something that really pushes things forward. So yeah, there you go. So that's everything I've got to say, other than be good, stay safe, and be kind to one another. Cheers.